In this video, we want to examine a very schematic diagram of the digestive system. This is also known as the digestive tract or sometimes the gastrointestinal tract. And we draw it in this very schematic fashion as we want to see it as a flow-through tube-like system that's going to help us process foods and then absorb the nutrients and minerals and water from that food along this pathway. And we can see that we enter this system at one end and then travel through this continuously connected pipe all the way to the other end where we excrete wastes. And so the inside of our digestive tract should be thought of as outside of our bodies. We actually process the food within this tract by secreting enzymes and acids into this tract, again, outside of our body, performing what's known as extracellular digestion. We then take the breakdown products of that digestion and absorb them across the walls of the later portions of this digestive system and put them into the bloodstream and the lymphatic system. We'll note that on the left here that we have muscle in the wall of this tubular structure. And that's actually going to have motility or contractility that's going to propel food unidirectionally along this tract. Now, there are going to be different speeds of propulsion of food depending upon the needs of the different areas. But we're going to continuously move the food in and the secretions of the GI tract in a unidirectional fashion. Now, we see also along the way that we have these rings of muscle known as sphincters. These are going to help us avoid any backwards flow. We want to make sure that nothing, when there's mixing going on, that we don't actually push things back towards the mouth in the direction opposite that we need things to move. And so we have sort of break points, if you will. They're still continuous, these open and close, but they're helping us limit the backwards flow at particular times. Now, along the way here, we're going to start by breaking down the food and preparing it for the absorption of those nutrients. And so if we start with a piece of food in the mouth here, we first have to grind it up, right? That's called mastication or chewing. And we're going to lubricate it through secretions of accessory glands, in this case, the salivary glands. So we're actually going to sort of break it down and lubricate it, and we're trying to increase the surface area of that food for access to all those elements that are going to help us break it down even further. The more access, the more surface area we have, the better our digestion will be. And so we take that chewed up food, that lubricated food, we pass it through the esophagus into the stomach, where we add acids and enzymes that are going to further digest it. Now that's going to be retained in the stomach, this fairly large volume reservoir, for a period so that we can get a pretty good head start on our breakdown of those nutrients. Once again, we don't absorb most nutrients in very large polymer form. We have to break them down into very small molecules to transport them into the bloodstream and the lymphatic system, how they can be carried. Now, it's no longer called food. We're going to call it chyme because it's not just food. It's food plus enzymes and acids in this case, mucus that's helping protect the GI lining. All those are sort of mixed together here. We're going to pass from the stomach through a sphincter into the small intestine now. This is more than 15 feet long. And in the beginning part, you can see that we have these accessory structures attached to it through ducts. And our pancreas is going to secrete buffers and enzymes, and our liver is going to secrete what's called bile. It's going to help emulsify or break down fats. That's actually stored in the gallbladder, this green structure here, and it's released when we eat into this small intestine, helping to aid the digestion that's occurring there. Now, when we leave this first section of the small intestine, we've now pretty much fully processed foods and are ready to start absorbing them. That's where you see in this sort of second and third regions of the small intestine here, very large, long section of the small intestine, is that we have this massive increase in the surface area through the presence of microvilli and villi and folds in the wall. All of this tells us that now our job is to transport across that wall and into the bloodstream. We're absorbing the nutrients largely in this region and adding them to our bloodstream for our cellular use. Now we're going to leave the small intestine. We've absorbed most of our nutrients. We're going to enter our much shorter large intestine, or the colon. And now our job really is to sort of retain water and retain electrolytes, the mineral ions that are left behind in this GI secretions and GI content. And so we're going to absorb those here. And one other thing that happens here is we have this huge bacterial colony that lives in this colon, this large intestine. That actually helps produce certain vitamins, helps break down some of the undigestible food products that we eat. We can actually get more nutrition from our food because of that. And then we're going to compact what's left over and excrete that as our waste. Now, overall, we want to just keep in mind of this flow-through system. It's extracellular digestion. We're adding secretions to that food and then absorbing the breakdown products across the wall of this tube-like structure into our bloodstream and lymphatic system.